Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we have a sweet treat for you. We are in Fairfield, California, exploring one of the most iconic candy brands in the world, Jelly Belly. We're going to go inside and learn all about this candy and see the tour of how it's actually made in the factory. Then, we are definitely going to see how many flavors we can try. Tag along.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
Alright, so we've got our official Jelly Belly hat now, which actually acts as your ticket as you're in the museum and factory. And we got some free samples already, some very cherry chocolate, I didn't even know they made chocolate, and of course, a whole little bag of jelly beans. But that's enough about this, let's get in there and check it out. We begin here at the Jelly Belly Museum to learn the history of these little candies. Just walking around here is a treat all on its own. The museum is well decorated with giant jelly beans floating through the air and even a Jelly Belly plane. Though we call the company Jelly Belly today, that wasn't its original name and didn't come around until 2001. Originally, the company was called Golitz, named after Gustav Golitz, who started his first candy business in 1869. These are some examples of antique candy machines that they would have used back then to make tasty, yummy treats. Golitz Candy Company truly became a family endeavor, and generation after generation took up the reins and continued making candy. Though technology has of course progressed, the way they used to make it is still pretty similar to what's done today, albeit with slightly different machinery. In 1898, the second generation of the Golitz candy-making family began specializing in a new type of candy, mellow creams, sometimes called buttercreams, which included candy corn. Though it is by far their most popular product today, they wouldn't begin making jelly beans until the 1960s. This is pretty cool here. This is the Model B printer. This was used starting in 1997 to stamp the Jelly Belly name on every single little bean that came out of these machines. Fantastic branding. In 1976, Jelly Belly was officially created, and the world went wild for them. In 1986, they needed to open a new factory with larger spaces, and that became where we are here in Fairfield, California. For such a small candy, it certainly has a huge fan base. Something that people were quick to pick up on is that jelly beans made for a very interesting art material. Here we see some statues made out of jelly beans, all representing the different animals of the Chinese zodiac. So this is art that's fun and delicious. Next to that were some dresses that were created out of jelly bean packaging, very sleek. And then we have some examples of what seems to be the most popular artistic medium for Jelly Belly's portraits. This is the Jelly Belly mascot, Mr. Jelly Belly, looking very dapper. And then some more familiar faces. Here is Hermione Granger with her wand posing outside of Hogwarts. And of course, wherever Hermione is, you're also going to find Ron Weasley wearing his robes, ready to get into whatever magical adventure comes next. But then we have Ronald Reagan, who is actually a huge fan of Jelly Bellies, as this was his favorite candy and really helped get the word out there about Jelly Belly. Another dynamic portrait, we had the Man of Steel himself, Superman. And then just to prove that Jelly Belly isn't just for people. We had Blue the Velociraptor from the Jurassic World series. So I guess dinosaurs are also a fan of these delicious little beans. After all of the artistic endeavors, I think this is probably my favorite part of the museum. This lovely Jelly Belly chorus line. They're here to spread cheer with their dance moves. But now that we've seen a little bit about the history of Jelly Belly, let's go watch them actually getting made. Something you definitely can't miss here is taking a ride on the Jelly Belly Express. Let's climb aboard. Now the museum was made after the factory, so it is in a separate building, and what better way to get there than this wonderful little train. You get a nice scenic tour of the Jelly Belly campus, taking you around all the buildings until finally you arrive at your final destination, One Jelly Belly Lane. They even have the Jelly Belly car parked right out front. Once you walk in, you're greeted by a giant Mr. Jelly Belly up in the sky. This is just to show you you've made it to the right place. From the lobby, you're gonna head down the hall following this delicious trail of candy, and it's gonna lead you straight to the Jelly Belly factory. These days, it's rare for most food and candy companies to actually let you watch things being made. So it's awesome that the Jelly Belly factory was specifically made with visitors in mind to get a glimpse behind the curtain. Finally, we come to the factory floor where production is in full swing. Below me is the packaging department. This is where all the jelly beans go to get packaged up, put into boxes, and shipped out to be enjoyed all over the world. Let's get a little closer look. This is one of the very last steps in the Jelly Belly process, where they're all going to get boxed up before being sent out. You can see the employees working hard to fill these boxes up and getting them nice and sealed. You also catch a glimpse of some pretty cool looking robots, such as these ones here, who are grabbing the packages of jelly beans and placing them into the boxes. Then over on this conveyor belt, we see a whole spread of Jelly Bellies before they get separated and put into their individual packages. To see what it looks like, where that stream of beans gets put into their little plastic packages, we come over here, where you see them being individually filled up into their bags. Then those transfer down here, where people are either able to manually box them up, or to the big robot picking machines. Pretty cool that there are so many options and ways that work together to get those Jelly Bellies out into the world. For a little bit of fun, we're now going to head to the Jelly Belly smell station. So in this hallway, you get to go walk all the way down and smell all the different Jelly Bellies. This one is buttered popcorn. Oh yeah, you can definitely smell that. Coming down here, this one is chocolate pudding. Ooh, very chocolatey. As you can see, there's a bunch of these stations set up. It just makes you even hungrier to actually taste them. All those unique smells and flavors are thanks in part to these bottles here. These are a mixture of different flavors, colors, smells that all combine together to make the perfect little jelly bean. Once the process is all done, they'll look just like these ones out here. Each of these trays has thousands of Jelly Bellies in them, ready to go out into the world. But before they reach this level, there's a whole life cycle they'll have to go through to officially become a Jelly Belly. This is where the life of a Jelly Belly begins. These giant mixers down here are whipping up all the goodness, making a slurry that eventually is going to form our jelly bean. Here's a look at those giant mixers. They are hard at work creating the Jelly Belly slurry. And just what is the slurry? Well, it's mainly a mixture of water, sugar, starch, and flavor. They're mixed up in here until they're the perfect consistency to move on to the next step. After the slurry has been all mixed together, they pour it into molds to give us that jelly bean shape, and then they're put in huge vats to get cooked up to become solid. Here's a very simple diagram that kind of shows the steps up to this point. They have the slurry being made, the flavor added, and then the liquid candy is going to go down into these awesome molds. They're going to give us whatever shape we want. In this case, we're looking for a perfect bean. Here's the machine loaded up with the molds. It's injecting that liquid candy straight in there. Now that they're filled up, they're going to be whisked away to the next location. And before we head to that next location, let's take a closer look at these molds. Each tray has several hundred jelly bean holes on it, and this is where the liquid goes into to help it get that iconic jelly bean shape that we all know and love. Something interesting is that not only jelly beans go through this, but other candies they make as well. Here's the mold for the Jelly Belly fish. We've also got candy corn, sour bunnies. These are the mellow creams for Halloween time. And then we have the mellow creams that all look like Santa Claus. Very similar to the jelly beans, we have the raspberry and blackberry molds, as well as these very nice round ones for the sun-kissed oranges. But no matter what you're making, after they go into the mold, they move on to the setting stage. This is very simple. This is where they'll get to go after the machine to cool off and harden. This will help make sure that the shape they got from the mold is going to stick. After the jelly beans are nice and firmly in their new shape, they're headed off to the mixers again for all the final finishing touches. Shh! We have to be quiet here. There's a lot of jelly beans resting behind me. The entire process of making these can last up to 14 days. The jelly beans will go back and forth to help get their shells in the panning process. Then they'll also go through a glossing experience where they get that shiny coloring. In between all these, they get a chance to hang out, catch some sleep, and rest here. Here's an example of one batch of Jelly Bellies going through their glossing experience. It sprays on there and gets them nice and shiny. After the beans have been through all their steps and had the Jelly Belly name printed on them, they are ready to go. They'll hang out here for one last time before being boxed up and shipped off. And that means our tour ends where it began, back in the packaging and shipping department. Boxes are flying in and out of here every single day, all on their trip to make it to your home. It's incredible to see that even something as small as a jelly bean has a rich and long process behind it. And the end result, no matter which of the 50 fun flavors it may be, is always deliciousness. Well, adventurers, I think we can agree that this has certainly been a delicious experience. Thanks for tagging along. My name is David, and this has been Abnormal Voyages. I got a bunch of jelly beans to eat now, so we'll see you next time.